Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
Nobody should be eating any cheese in week 2 of the season going into week 3. You know, like, it's early. And when you watch the tape, you look at it and you'd say, yeah, we did good things. Okay, but there's still a lot of things that we have to clean up and that we have to be, better at. And so I thought our guys came out today. I thought they had a focus. I thought they had an intensity. I thought they prepared well. They were into the plan in all 3 phases. So that's the formula for success.
Dennis Allen Wednesday, as the Saints were back on the practice field getting ready for the Eagles. Remember, man, this is a good spot for New Orleans. They certainly in the preseason would have been a home dog in this game, but the Saints right now are a 2.5-point home favorite. Remember, Eagles played the Falcons on Monday Night Football, lost, so maybe a little desperation for Philly, but a short week on the road. Spots matter in the NFL, not just who you play, but when and where you play them. So for the Eagles to be at home, then have to travel on a short week, big disadvantage. Saints are flying high right now. But you know what's so interesting, man? What's so interesting to me, and we've talked a lot, rightfully, about Alvin Kamara, who, shout out, named NFC Offensive Player of the Week on Wednesday after his 4-touchdown performance, rightfully so. We've talked about Derek Carr, who has been the picture of efficiency, anything but the preordained Emperor of Empty Yards. We might have to rename those horns. But for me, what's been so interesting has been the offensive line. I think for a lot of people as well. Let us not get confused here, okay? Like, now that the Saints are 2 games in, they're 2-0, they've really been at an historic pace. Let's not forget what the conversation universally has been about this team the entire offseason. Look, my hand's in the air, but if your hand isn't in the air, you're a friggin' liar, okay? That was an offense last year that was bad. You were 27th in the NFL in rush offense. Your perennial all-pro right tackle, Ryan Ramczyk, looks like his career is over. James Hurst, who had been a really steady veteran for you, retires. Andrus Peat leaves in free agency. So you return 2 offensive linemen, and one of them is Cesar Ruiz, okay, who is consistently rated among the lowest starters in the NFL. Throughout this entire camp, throughout all of camp, Dennis Allen consistently said, "Oh, I feel like we got 2 things figured out on the offensive line. McCoy and Ruiz, the 2 things you went in." But here we are. Taliesin Fuanga's looked really good. You moved Trevor Penning to right tackle. Lucas Patrick is starting at left guard. And through 2 weeks, the New Orleans Saints are one of the best offenses in the NFL, and you wonder how they're doing it. By the way, I went and dug this up. Before the season started, ESPN did their positional group rankings. They ranked the New Orleans Saints offensive line 29th. Muse, remind me, how many teams are in the NFL?
32.
32, thank you. Sometimes I just have I have memory issues.
Yeah.
32 teams in the NFL. So ESPN ranked the Saints unit, the offensive line, 29th out of 32. Pro Football Focus, before the season started, had their position group rankings. How many teams again in the NFL?
32.
32. Pro Football Focus had the Saints offensive line 31st out of 32. So let's not get it twisted and say we knew they were going to be awesome. Nobody thought they would be. So far, through 2 weeks, you're 3rd in the NFL in rushing offense at 185 yards a game, behind only Green Bay and the Chargers. And in pass protection, you've only allowed 1 sack in 2 games. For what it's worth, a year ago, you allowed an average of 2.1 sacks per game. You've allowed 1 in 2 games so far. Can you keep it up? I don't know. We'll see. This weekend, though, is going to be another opportunity considering how the 2 teams have started. You would think for the Saints to get going. Philadelphia's defense, and I don't mean to just throw out a bunch of stats at you and numbers, and you don't need to memorize them. I'm just illustrating the point. The Saints, nobody thought they were going to be good on the offensive line coming into the season. Through 2 weeks, they've been awesome. You're third in rushing offense, and you've only allowed 1 sack. You've been great on up front. Philly, coming into this season, we all thought would be really good, a contender not only in the East, but in the entire NFC. Right now, Philadelphia's defense, 25th in rush defense, 28th in pass defense, 27th in scoring defense. They have been bad. Nick Sirianni, their head coach, was asked on Wednesday, what's up with your defense playing so poorly through 2 weeks?
Everything, when you talk about run defense and when you talk about playing defense, is going to start with, do you get off blocks? Can you play on their side of the line of scrimmage and get off blocks? And can you make the tackles when you get there? So regardless of what the call is, it's going to be how we put our hands on people. And so we have to build on those fundamentals. And there's 2 aspects of this, right? It's us as coaches putting them in position to make plays, but that's us also teaching them how to put their hands on blocks. We're going to make sure that we do our part as coaches, and the players got to do their part of executing it.
Now, we didn't get much right through 2 weeks. But one thing we did nail was Lucas Patrick. Told you when they signed Lucas Patrick, that was a sneaky good signing. And through 2 weeks, by the way, Pro Football Focus has put out the highest graded offensive lineman in the entire NFL. This isn't for the Saints. This isn't the NFC. The highest graded offensive lineman in the entire NFL through 2 weeks. Number 1, Saint center Eric McCoy. Number 2, Saints guard Lucas Patrick. The top 2 highest graded offensive linemen in the entire NFL through 2 weeks are your center and left guard. By the way, remember we played this cut for you when the Saints signed Lucas Patrick. This was Matt LaFleur talking about Patrick when he had him there in Green Bay.
And Lucas he's kind of the glue guy, man. He holds that whole group together. He brings that grit, that toughness, the way he competes, the way he cares about his teammates. And he's been doing it for our whole time here, really, together, especially the last 2 years. So I think Lucas is playing at a really high level. We're fortunate that we have a lot of great people in that room.
I'll remind you, that was a room that had all-pro David Bakhtiari at left tackle. And there's Matt LaFleur saying Lucas Patrick was the glue guy. That's what started us down the path to say this guy may actually be good. Some amazing clips from NFL films of him when he was with the Bears. He's been a versatile offensive lineman. He's been really good for the Saints at left guard through 2 weeks anyway. The other thing that's worth mentioning is Trevor Penning, because for very obvious reasons, the Saints invested a first-round pick in him. We're all wondering if they can salvage something from Trevor Penning. And like we always say with PFF, it's a metric. It's not the metric. It's just something to consider, okay? Last week, so against Carolina, Trevor Penning was good. His run grade was a 62.9. His pass grade was 76.8. Really good. By the way, Carolina, you're stupid for trading Brian Burns. You're also stupid for trading DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. Like, this is why you're in the situation you're in. Anyway, so Penning's overall grade against Carolina was a 68.2. That's very respectable. Not great, but respectable. Against Dallas, his run grade was a 64.0, so consistent there, mid-upper 60s. Trevor Penning's pass block grade against the Dallas Cowboys was 26.7. Like, 26.7, that gets your ass benched. Did you notice? I didn't. I mean, you could go watch some clips on Twitter afterwards where maybe Penning's like being Olayed, but you get the ball out early. That's where scheme, your wide zone run scheme, that's where your play action, that's where Clint Kubiak's offense is covering for the deficiencies. One of the most fascinating things for me as we continue to see the sample size grow this year of the Saints is how defenses counterpunch. It's going to happen. They're very smart defensive coaches in the league that are familiar with this offense. They play the Niners and they play the Lions and they play the Rams. I mean, they're familiar with this offense. I'm not saying it's easy to stop, especially when it's running efficiently, but they're familiar with it. And so the more film you put out, how do they start to counterpunch the Saints? And then when the Saints start to skid a little, How do they adjust? That's what I'm going to be really interested to see as the season goes along. But so far, hard to argue with anything we've seen. And the team coming in, who was thought to be a contender at the start of the season, and may very well still be, they are struggling defensively at the places where you have been really good at exploiting defenses. So far, the Saints are a 2.5-point home favorite against Philly this weekend. We'll see if the Saints can keep it rolling and make it 3-0. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.